Good morning, everybody. I want to welcome everybody to the Vauxhall Branch Library, and my name is Gabriel Ramos, and I'm the branch manager of this library. And I want to apologize if I'm moving a lot because I'm not a big suit and blazer guy, but today is a special event for a very special woman. And I was given the task to do research on Miss Jeanette Shell for the running slideshow that's behind me right now. And even though I never met Miss Jeanette Shell, I was able to read how important she was, not only to the library, but to the community itself. And one of the things that stood out was just the relationships that she created within the community and at the library. And this is very important even today at the library as we work together as a family. And if you look around, look at all the stuff that we've done already. Miss Cassandra Miller, our library director, was the brains of this celebration. I also want to thank Eric Jackson, Alex Ribeiro, Christina Stefano, and Abigail Nemich, who all assisted with the details of making this event perfect. And finally, I want to recognize two ladies who went beyond expectation to make this event great, and that's Miss Lorona Jones and Miss Sandra Miller. So Miss Jeanette Shell valued the Vauxhall Library and instilled these values to our previous branch managers, Miss Peg Brady and Miss Erica Bell. They too made this library into a pillar of the community as well, and they should be recognized as well too. So as I wrap up my remarks, I just promise to all of you that I will not let the memories of Jeanette Shell fade away, as I will follow her vision in making this library a welcoming place for everyone and to make it as an extension to the community. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I am Cassandra Miller, the library director of the Union Public Library, and I am very happy to be here today to celebrate Mrs. Jeanette Shell, and I want to thank the family for coming. It has been in the works for over a year, so we are happy to be able to do this today, that the Board of Trustees of the library approved to have this room's name changed. And I'm not the brains of it. This came to the library board by Mr. James Patterson, Floyd Patterson, I'm so sorry, Mr. Floyd Patterson. So I can't take the credit for that at all. But it's my honor to recognize the individuals whose presence makes this day even more meaningful. So I'm going to start off with Mayor Figueredo. Commissioner Granados, Sergio Granados, thank you. We have committee members. Sandra Terrell, Committee Woman Sandra Terrell, Committeeman James Bowser, Committeeman Joseph Florio. Am I missing anyone here? What's that? Senator Cryan has some remarks that will be read by Mrs. Bertha Little Matthews later in the program. But I just wanted to introduce myself and extend a thank you to everyone for coming, for their time, and for joining us in this celebration. So thank you very much. Right now we have Board President, Mr. Stephen Lay, who will give some background information.
Thank you, and also want to acknowledge some of our Board of Trustees members here. Miss Sally Strauss and Mrs. Rosa Figueredo. So, good morning, everyone. Author Angela Cervantes once said, "You can always tell who a true trailblazer is by the friends and family that surrounds them." True trailblazers are motivated not by glory, but for love. And today we see and feel a lot of love for Jeanette Shell, who may not be here with us physically, but her legacy and her impact are present and felt by us all right now. Mrs. Shell was the first Black librarian in Vauxhall and Union, and the library's longest-serving library supervisor. For 45 years, Mrs. Shell provided leadership and direction that shaped the Vauxhall Branch Library into what it is today. Mrs. Shell paved a path for others to follow and see possible for themselves. First, I want to join with Cassandra in thanking Mr. Floyd Patterson and as well as Tyrone Tutt for coming before the Board of Trustees to recommend the dedication of the all-purpose room in her honor. It was unanimous and a no-brainer to vote and dedicate the name of Jeanette Shell for the all-purpose room. To honor an individual and name any part of the library takes an individual of rare distinction that contributed immensely to the library and to the community. And it was so evidently clear that Mrs. Shell was that person of rare distinction. And so for the next hour or so, we will hear the amazing personal stories of friends and family that will attest to the incredible individual that is Mrs. Jeanette Shell. And so thank you very much for having me speak, and we'll get started with the program.
Okay, I'm going to introduce our first speaker. We're going to go a little out of order and have Mr. Johnny Rosser come up first. Okay. Welcome, Johnny Rosser.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Johnny Rosser. My family moved to Vauxhall in 1957. I started Jefferson School in the 4th grade. I had the pleasure of having a friendship with Janelle, and I knew her as Jeanette Harris Shell because I remember when she was Mrs. Harris. And I knew her as a friend, a librarian, and my next door neighbor. Starting about the 5th grade at Jefferson School, I started using the Vauxhall Library for doing homework assignments. I went to Burnett Junior High School from the 7th to the 9th grade, and then to Union High School from the 10th to the 12th grade, and then to college. It was during my junior high and high school years that the Vauxhall Library became a learning center, a study hall, a meeting center. After school, the Vauxhall Library was the next stop before going home. Jeanette Shell was the person who helped or guided you with your homework assignments and research. She would make suggestions and make you aware of new things at the library. She was always available. This is a place where I first utilized the Dewey Decimal System. I realize that some of you can understand where we're at today, okay? Excuse me. And it was a study hall and a library. She was a nice person, but a firm disciplinarian. There were rules, and if you didn't abide by the rules, you were asked to leave. Note, since I lived next door and she knew my parents, I was not one of the discipline problems. There were other library personnel during this period, such as Judy Murphy. Jeanette Shell was the second person of African American descent to be hired by the Township of Union as a municipal worker. She started working for the Union Township Public Library system in 1949. She spent her whole career working for the Union Township Public Library system. It is gratifying to see that her years of service to the residents of Union Township, especially the Vauxhall section, have been recognized with this honor. And when I look around this room, I see a number of the people that I spoke to that understand about coming to the library after coming from high school or junior high, and this was the first stop-off point. So with that, I'm going to end and say thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rosser. Next, we have Erica Bell.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It is such an honor to stand here in front of a community that is so near and dear to my heart, and to be able to speak to what I believe to be family. So I'm going to stay on the script. I wrote some words down, but really, I am grateful. I'm honored to be here today. I would first like to give thanks to Cassandra Miller and the Union Public Library, Vauxhall Branch Library staff for the work that you did to put this thoughtful gesture together. I would also like to acknowledge the former branch manager, my mentor, my support system, my go-to, Ms. Peg Brady. To the current branch manager, Gabe, I really appreciate you for stepping into a space and doing a wonderful job for a community that really loves this community library. To the mayor and all of the elected officials, the leadership that are present, thank you for your commitment to our community and our amazing town. Lastly, I would like to acknowledge Mrs. Shell's family and the Jeanette Shell Book Scholarship Committee. As I reflect on my journey from a young teenager to where I stand today, my heart is filled with immense gratitude for the pivotal role Mrs. Jeanette Shell played in my life. And I'm shaking because this is like one of those things where imagining it happening is so important and near and dear to my heart, because I was a latchkey kid. My mom was working, my family's from the community, but she sent me to that library. Do your homework, sit there, behave, don't get in trouble. And those were the rules, because I knew as soon as I stepped foot out of that library, one of my cousins, one of my aunts was going to hear about it. So my job was to be on my best behavior. So over 30 years ago, Mrs. Shell took a chance on a 14-year-old girl who was visiting the library regularly because her mom was working and she needed a safe place to be. I will never forget the day that she suggested that I fill out a job application, and she gave me the opportunity to do the work at the old Vauxhall Library, which was up the street. This chance was not just a job, it was a lifeline. It kept me safe and grounded, and it opened up doors to countless opportunities to serve the community we both cherished. The mentorship, the environment that she fostered at the library was instrumental in shaping my professional and personal growth. I was able to grow from a library page to eventually becoming the branch manager. The skills I learned, the values that she exemplified, were all instilled in me and have stayed with me throughout my professional career. Working under her guidance, I learned the importance of a strong work ethic, community involvement, and leadership. Her dedication to the Vauxhall community and her commitment to excellence have always inspired me. She was more than a supervisor. She was a beacon of kindness and wisdom and love. The path she paved through the years of service at the library left a legacy, not only within the library system, but also in the hearts of everyone she touched, including me. I am forever grateful for Mrs. Shell for seeing potential in me and for being an incredible role model. Again, thank you, Cassandra, to the staff and to the community for showing up today and for also giving me the opportunity to say a few words.
I love hearing these stories. Thank you, Erica. Next, we have Marguerite Brady. I know, I can.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Boy, do I miss this library. I've been gone 12 years, and this library and this community has been in my heart from the day I came here many years ago, back in the late 90s, I think 98. And it's still in my heart. I live way down in South Jersey now, and I'm still looking for a library to participate in, and but there's nothing like being, to me, home here at the Vauxhall Library and in the Vauxhall community. Thank you, Ms. Miller, and the library board and the committee and the staff for all that you've done to recognize Ms. Shell. When I first started at the library back in 1989, I only know Mrs. Shell as a reference librarian. That's where she was doing most of her work. And then I heard about Vauxhall, but I had not been in Union that long, so I was only familiar with the Union Library and the Townley branch of the library, way back when we had another branch. So when one of the things I remember about Ms. Shell was, beside working in reference, she started being head of the scheduling. Now, that back then was a very challenging job. It was not on the computer. You would see Mrs. Shell walking in with her overstuffed tote bag filled with papers and rolls of paper. You would find Ms. Shell working in the mail room, or what I forget what up by tech services. She would be sitting in where we had the mail, and all the papers would be laid out, because there was also a card system for comp time, a card system for your regular vacation time. Everything was done manually. There was 2 buildings, 5 floors. Vauxhall had to have 2 people in it all times. Children's room had to have 2 people all the time. And circulation had to have 2 people all the time. So there was constantly people moving on the chessboard, and Mrs. Shell was in charge of everything. And it was a Herculean task. So you had to be very careful if you needed some time off, where Mrs. Shell was in that process. You didn't go ask her, say, I need a few days off, or I can't come in this day, at the end of her working that schedule. You tried to get her at the beginning, because at the end, she would look at you. Always a lady with the soft voice, but I always thought of her as the iron hand in a velvet glove. So you had to tread very carefully when you were looking for time off. When Mrs. Shell retired, I was asked to come over here to the Vauxhall Library, and I was completely new to the community. Let me tell you, I spent a lot of time seeking out Mrs. Shell, and she was a tremendous mentor to me for people to reach out to. And the ins and outs. I never managed staff. I never managed a library. I had to take experience from my family's business, observing my dad, how he did things. But Mrs. Shell guided me through so much that I am eternally grateful for everything that I learned, because through her, I felt she and I together, we did good with the library here, and I miss her. I miss her a lot. So thank you very much. And,
Thank you, Mrs. Brady. Now we have Mrs. Bertha Little Matthews.
Very carefully. Whew. Good morning. Good morning. Protocol has been established. I'm Bertha Little Matthews, and I will be speaking for Bethel AME Church as well as myself. Jeanette Harris Shell was a trailblazer, to say the least. She carved out a path for our community to follow. Jeanette Shell was born in Elizabeth, New Jersey on June 10th, 1930. Her family moved to Vauxhall the fall of 1937 in time for her to start the school year. She was educated in the Union Township school system. Jeanette graduated from Union High School 4th in her class in 1948. That's a big deal. Yes. Mrs. Shell was the first African-American employee to work for the Union Public Library. Jeanette worked in several departments of both the Maine and the Vauxhall branch. She was eventually promoted and appointed to run the Vauxhall Library. Not sure what her official title was, but to us, she was our librarian, and you can't change that. She was the authority figure. She was privileged to work with Judy Murphy, and some of you may remember there was also Rose Sloan. Rose Sloan was a part of that team, and they were a fantastic team. Jeanette retired from the Union Public Library in 1994 and was honored for 45 years of dedicated service by the Union Public Library, Congressman Donald Payne, as you can see in all of these slides, Union Township Committee, county freeholders. Also in attendance was another one of our community trailblazers, the Honorable Judge Glenn Grant. You can see. In 1998, Jeanette and members of the community formed the Jeanette Shell Book Scholarship Fund that awards book scholarships to deserving college-bound students of the community. Would you please raise your hand, those that are here that are still a part of that committee or part of the committee, whether younger or older? And Mr. Patterson will expound on that a little bit further when he steps up. He's our president, and he has guided us through the years. Let's see. And she was also, the entire community was there. I'm proud to say that, to my knowledge, I am the remaining charter member of the scholarship committee, and I care. So I was there at the beginning. Mrs. Shell was a faithful, dedicated member of Bethel AME Church for over 75 years. She loved her church, and she loved her community. Jeanette Shell was a true trailblazer who played a major part in molding the fabric of our community. She loved the Vauxhall community as well as she loved the library. And most of us that are in this room can attest that she made a difference in our lives. She was a kind, generous, benevolent person. She was a special kind of person. In my memory, the Vauxhall Library was a major staple of our community and still is. It was a learning center. It was a safe location for many who may have been latchkey kids, and you heard Johnny refer to that. We came to do our homework. It was also a very safe place after school for us to gather. One of my fondest memories of Mrs. Shell is her standing or sitting behind her desk, and if there was noise coming from any area in the room, she would look over her glasses at us, and I think Ms. Brady referred to that, and give us that look. And after that, all you would hear is, uh-oh, here she comes. Here she comes. By that time, of course, by the time she got there, of course, we gave her our innocent look. So, of course, none of us were talking. It is memories like these that ties the bond of a community. These are the ties that bond. And these are the things that form a community and keep a community together. And as you know, we are a very, very close-knit community. So I want to thank all who had anything to do with this day. Thank you for recognizing one of our heroes. And I also want to thank you for allowing me to participate. Thank you very much to everyone. Thank you to the committee. Great affair.
Thank you for that. I'm loving all of these just getting to know Mrs. Shell more than I knew her. Next, we have Mr. Floyd Patterson.
Good morning.
Good morning.
As I said, I'm Floyd Patterson. First, I'd like to thank all that have contributed to make this day possible. Township officials, Ms. Cassandra Miller, the library board, the Jeanette Shell Scholarship Committee, all trustees, founding members, deceased and living, to make this day a purpose day. To God be the glory. When I first met Mrs. Shell, I was heavily involved with recruiting minority students to attend HBCUs. I learned that Mrs. Shell worked through a friend, Mr. Leslie Coles, who at the time was a member of the Union Township Board of Ed. You all might remember him. He informed me, and he said that there was a lady in the neighborhood of Vauxhall, which I lived in, that was also recruiting students or giving money to students to attend college after graduating high school. So I met her. When I met her, she informed me that the neighborhood group she was assisting, the assisted Union Township Community senior grads from Union High School to attend college. She assisted them financially. So we joined up. My first So in 1998, a group of concerned citizens from this community started a nonprofit organization called the Jeanette Shell Book Scholarship Fund, Incorporated. This incorporation started in 1998. It is called a private foundation certified by the Department of Treasury, IRS, as a 501c3 tax-deductible corporation. Also as a nonprofit corporation from the state of New Jersey. Since I became president in 2009, we have given a minimum of 3 book scholarships a year, on average, of $300 per student, with the exception of the year 2001, 2002, and 2003, and that was because of COVID. Our primary source of funding come from dues, donation, and monetary gifts. There have been fundraisers in the past, but recently we haven't had any because of other reasons. Again, I'd like to thank the family for sharing Mrs. Shell with the great work that she's done in this community throughout the years. Thank you so very much.
Just another round of applause for all the speakers. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your stories. Right now, we will have Mayor Figueredo step up and whenever, yes. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. Before I have any remarks, I'm going to ask Committeewoman Sandra Terrell just to reflect on Ms. Shell.
Thank you. So I'm not on the agenda, but I thought it was really important for me to come and talk about Ms. Shell. So I am Committeewoman Sandra Terrell, but more importantly, I am a product of Vauxhall, New Jersey. Most of you are in this room, a lot of you in this room, you know that being a product of Vauxhall means our roots run really, really deep. We are very proud to be of this community, from this community. So my story about Ms. Shell is, years ago, there was a program called the Summer Youth Program. And in that program, we would be hired as teenagers and placed in different locations around Vauxhall and Union. I happened to be placed in the library, working for Ms. Shell. So she was my very first boss. And I'm so appreciative of what I learned from her, which was mostly the Dewey Decimal System. And one of my responsibilities, especially when the library was closed, was to make sure that all of the books were in the right order. So imagine a 14-year-old in the library alone, you know, and making sure that those books were in order. And if they weren't, she would be sure to let me know they weren't. So she was tough, but she was loved. She loved us. We loved her. And I'm just grateful to be here. I think this is a wonderful, wonderful thing that we're doing for her in her honor. So thank you so much for hearing me. And thank you all so much for doing this.
Thank you, Sandra. You know, all these vignettes this morning, they're just so touching. And I think all of you feel her presence here, the effect she had. Of course, it's not the same building, but the spirit and the soul is still here, and she still affects us to this day. So today we gathered not just to commemorate a name, but to pay homage to a legacy of service, a legacy of education, and unyielding dedication to this great community. We are deeply grateful for Jeanette Shell's contributions, relentless efforts, love for literacy and the belief in the transformative power of education. Her influence, as you hear, goes way beyond this library and into the lives of countless students, readers, and families in our community. As you've heard, in 1998, she initiated the Jeanette Shell Book Scholarship Fund, a testament to her unwavering commitment to education. This fund, which awards book scholarships to deserving college-bound students in the community, has inspired many and continues to make a significant impact. In 2011, she received the plaque from the New Jersey chapter of the Florida A&M University Alumni Association for her dedication and commitment as a librarian, and most importantly, as a community leader. We proudly honor her, we honor her family, and I have a resolution to present in recognition of her exceptional contributions for being the first African-American librarian of the Union Public Library. So I want to thank Cassandra and her staff. Gabriel, thank you for providing this space, a lasting tribute to her dedication to learning and to her dedication to community. It's a testament to the collective appreciation and respect of our community for Jeanette Shell. This space will remind us of her legacy and keep the spirit and knowledge and connection that she supported throughout her life. I'm going to ask the rest of the Township Committee to come up. We have a proclamation from the Township for her family. Not going to read the whole thing. You know her biography. But I just want to say on behalf of the Township of Union, New Jersey, hereby dedicate the Jeanette Shell All-Purpose Room to honor Jeanette Shell for her exceptional service and contributions to the library and the community, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution suitably prepared be presented to the family of Jeanette Shell as a token, and a small token only, of gratitude and a testament to her enduring legacy, signed by myself, Deputy Mayor Florio, Committeeman Bowser, and Committeewoman Terrell. I'd like to present this to the family. Thank you. Thank you. Just, we're going to take a picture with you. Here, let me open it for you. Hold on. At least we show what's on the inside, right? Thank you so much, and congratulations to you.
Thank you, Mayor and committee people, committeemen and women, committee people. So not on the program, but I am going to call Mrs. Bertha Little Matthews back up. She has a resolution as well.
All right, so I'm batting cleanup. This is a resolution from our Senator, Joseph Cryan. He was not able to stay with us this afternoon or this morning. He does have a family emergency. This resolution, I'm going to read it because he asked me to. This resolution is from the State Senate and General Assembly. Whereas the dedication of the Jeanette Shell All-Purpose Room at the Vauxhall branch of the Union Public Library will take place on October 12th, and the Senate and General Assembly of the State of New Jersey are pleased to honor the memory of Jeanette Shell. Upon this auspicious occasion, and commend her lifetime of dedication to the people of Union County. And born in the city of Elizabeth and raised in Vauxhall, Jeanette Shell graduated near the top of Union High School's class of 1948, and within the next year, She became the first Black librarian for the Union Public Library system, launching what would become a distinguished career that spanned a remarkable 45 years. And whereas Jeanette Shell began her tenure in the circulation department of the main library, and she worked at the Vauxhall branch library under her mentor and later friend, Elizabeth Lusix, who had known Jeanette as a patron of the library who regularly visited throughout her school days. And whereas following Elizabeth's retirement, Jeanette Shell was rightfully promoted and appointed to head librarian at the Vauxhall Branch Library, a position she upheld with the utmost dignity until her own well-earned retirement in 1994. And whereas a proud, longtime congregant of the Bethel AME Church in Vauxhall, she was married to her beloved late husband, John, for 40 years. And the couple traveled extensively, visiting many of the places throughout the United States, Canada, and Europe that she had read about in the books that she so loved. And whereas not one to rest on her laurels, she founded the Jeanette Shell Book Scholarship Fund in 1998, a grant book scholarship to deserving college-bound students from the area. And in 2011, she was recognized by the New Jersey chapter of the Florida A&M Alumni Association for her immeasurable contribution as a librarian and community leader. And whereas, within all spheres of her life and work, Jeanette Shell established a model to emulate and set a standard of excellence towards which others might strive. Therefore, be it resolved by the State Senate and General Assembly that this legislature hereby salutes the legacy of Jeanette Shell and extends profound sympathy and sincere condolences to all who may mourn her. And be it further resolved that a duly authenticated copy of this resolution, signed by the Senate President and the Assembly Speaker and attested by the Senate Secretary and the Assembly Clerk, be transmitted to the family of Jeanette Shell, signed by Nicholas P. Scutari and Craig Coughlin. This, too, we would like to present to the family, and I'd like the Township Committee to come back up with me while we present this. Thank you. This is the support team. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Could we take one more picture and have the president of the library board and the librarian stand with us to commemorate the moment?
Do you want to get Mr. Ramos up here too?
Who? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, right.
Okay. Please thank Senator Cryan for the time he put aside to come here and deliver that, and thank you for reading the resolution. Next, we have time for any of the family members who would like to speak. Okay. All right.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dwight. All right. A lot of people don't know that my Aunt Jeanette was a good cook. She was the first black Miss Martha Stewart in Vauxhall. On our birthdays, every one of us would have a 3-layered cake made to our specification. Mom didn't play around too much. She let you know who was boss right away. She grabbed me by my ears, sometimes my cheeks, and told me when I'm doing right or doing wrong. She made it possible for me because when I went to school, I needed books from elementary all the way up to college. I said, how are you going to get this book for me? Next thing I know, I got a book from Barnes & Nobles. It cost $40 a piece. She cared about a lot of people. She helped a lot of people. Not just with books, she helped a lot of people. She helped people in need, and that's just the kind of person she was. Her and my Uncle John, there was never two people like them, either one of them. Both of them helped in getting people jobs and things. Mom was a special person to me. I'll never forget her. Every Saturday, we were together. And I always remember that. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Thomas Shell, and Jeanette Shell's nephew. This has been a great day. It really has. You know, I have mixed emotions because Aunt Jeanette was more than an aunt to myself and my brother. She was our second mom. You know, Mom married Dad, and then his brother married my mother's sister. So this day is beautiful, but at the same time emotional for me. I just like to thank the board of directors and for all who made this day possible. As my cousin Dwight said, Aunt Jeanette, she was nice, but she didn't play. She was just like our grandmother and grandfather. But yeah, she and Uncle John would give the shirts off their backs. She was very philanthropic. She donated to many charities. And I know this because she put me in charge of keeping track of all of them, some 150 charities. Among them, of course, libraries, especially the Schomburg in Harlem. She made significant donations too. I miss my aunt. I really do. Of course, she and Uncle John, they were in a serious car accident that killed him. But God allowed her to see 20 years more. And I don't think there was I don't think there was 1 month in those 20 years when I didn't see her. When she was in the hospital in Pennsylvania, I would go there every Saturday, see how she was doing. But again, I just want to thank everybody for coming out. I thank, on behalf of everybody, I'd like to, my family, thank everyone for this day. Thank you for coming out. And I'm sure she and Uncle John are smiling right now, knowing that her legacy will live on forever. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Delinda. I'm Aunt Jeanette's niece, and I'd just like to thank everybody from Vauxhall Library, and especially the people that worked with her, like Cliff and the Franklins. And y'all had to endure a lot with her, because I know Aunt Jeanette, she would call me. Well, I just did it. After work, I come and pick her up, and then she was like, I was like, would she hurry up? But besides that, I was like, what is all this stuff? That's my work stuff. But she was a beautiful person. She did endure everybody in Vauxhall. She loved Vauxhall, and Vauxhall loved Aunt Jeanette. She didn't have no children, but we were her children, our family. Anytime that she called you, and especially she knew my number, especially when she got hurt, she would, when you get older and you get hurt, you can't hit that button all the time because they want to wonder who lives with you. She'd call me 3 o'clock in the morning to come help her, which she felt. I would pick her up, and she said, okay, I'm all right. She's very independent. She didn't want nobody to live with her or nothing, but she knew everybody in Vauxhall. And we appreciate y'all, and she appreciate you. So, on behalf of the family, we love this, that she was honored, because she did a lot for the library. And we appreciate y'all and the church. So, have a blessed day.
Thank you.
Okay, I think this is the moment we've all been waiting for. We're going to unveil the plaque, so I'm going to ask Mr. Stephen Lay to come up, Mayor Figueredo, and Gabriel Ramos to come up. Everyone in place with the cameras? Video?
There you go. See? Ready?
All right, ready? So this will be put on the wall, but it was easier to have it on the easel for everyone to take pictures, or the family to take pictures. I hope you all like this. The designer, we went through a few designs before we said okay to this one, but there was a lot of thought put into it, and I'm pleased with how it came out. So, I think the board is pretty pleased with it as well. So anyone who wants to take pictures, we have this next one. We also have remarks from the audience, but perhaps we should do the pictures first with the family. Yeah. Do you want to all get together and I take the picture? Sure.
Right. That's a nice picture. Nice picture.
First of all, I want to say good morning to everybody. And I totally concur with everything everybody said about Ms. Shell, and I'm not going to be redundant. But what I want to say to her family is thank you for sharing Ms. Shell with us, her commitment and dedication to the library, to this community. You know, every hero is not in the book. They're not on the DVD. They're right in our communities. And we have so many people in this community that has done some great things. And charity begins at home and spreads abroad. Ms. Shell, thank you for being a trailblazer. But I want to issue a challenge to everybody to really exemplify what she did. Support our libraries. Because as long as we support our libraries, we support Ms. Shell and her legacy. God bless you. Thank you. And as I say, the struggle continues. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sandra Parker. I live on Russell Street, which is directly down the street from the library. I had no intention of coming up to speak, but I was so moved by what I heard and what I read and just the experience and the thought and knowledge that this special thing was being done in honor of Mrs. Shell. Everything everyone talked about in terms of having a place to go resonated with me, but more special for me was having a person to go to. That's who Mrs. Shell was for me. I must have been pretty good because I don't remember the eyes or getting in trouble or having any kind of shush going on. But the thing I do remember, there always was, the library with her was always a place of peace for me. And people called it safety, but I didn't realize that that's what it was also. So I'm resonating on some of the things and experiences I had with Mrs. Shell, and I fondly remember the summers that I literally would walk down the street, because we were Russell Street, straight down, and she would always greet me with, Sandra, we have the new reading list. I don't know if you remember, you would get a piece of paper and you read like 10 books and get a sticker. When you finish, you probably got a prize. I don't know. I think she just rooked me in and maybe made me think that that's what you're supposed to do when you come to the library. But I believe I gained a fondness for reading as a result of that experience. And I so wish she was here now because I'm not reading like I used to. So I think in her honor, sometimes I find myself wanting to get a piece of paper and get some stickers and say you're going to read 10 books or something like that. And I think that that's truly what she inspired and instilled in a transformative way for so many without even us knowing that that was happening. That she made you want to be a part of something educational and purposeful and professional. You know, because as you all said, what she represented and the dignity and the presence that she had truly was a mentoring and a role model experience for me. And I loved Mrs. Shell. And as, like I said, everything people were saying, I could just vividly see her. And so I also want to emphasize that we keep her in our memory and that love for her, and having this special place named after her will always be an opportunity for us to conjure up her presence in our hearts. Thank you, family, for sharing her, and thank you, everyone, for coming.
I'm back again, this time with a different hat. As I stated earlier, the Jeanette Shell Book Scholarship is a 501c3 tax-exempt organization. So if you would like to make a donation or contribution to that cause, we welcome you. We thank you. The other thing is that you can see I'm not a young man. So we're looking for young people to become part of this board, this committee, this organization, to carry on this legacy for years to come. When we leave, I leave, it dies down. So we need younger people. So we are soliciting also membership to become board members. So if you'd like to be part of this organization, you can leave your name and address with the library here, and we will be in contact with you. Thank you so very much for your time, for your efforts, for your gift, and your love. God bless.
Good morning. My name is Cliff. I had the pleasure of working with Mrs. Shell for a long time, along with Kim, Tracy, Erica. And when I first started the library, about 14 years old, I started as a library page. And I tried Mrs. Shell for a minute. I really tried. So one day, I was mumbling, I said something. And Mrs. Shell, she wasn't a screamer. She was a relaxed person. She walked to the steps. I'm going down the steps because I didn't want her to catch me. So as I'm going down the steps, she said, "You all right, Cliff?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." I walked on about my business. But one thing about Mrs. Shell, she didn't raise her voice, but all she had to do was look at you. Once she looked at you, you knew it was over with. But she always showed me love. She took me underneath her wings. And that bag that Miss Peg Brady was talking about, I had the pleasure of carrying that bag every day, going back and forth to the library. I was sad to see her go, but I wasn't sad to see that bag go. Thank you.
Anyone else? So we will proceed with the closing remarks from Mr. Stephen Lee.
Well, what wonderful stories, and thank you everyone for being here today to dedicate this all-purpose room to Mrs. Jeanette Shell. Today's dedication is immensely important, especially, I believe, for our youth and future generations to come, because it's vital to know and remember those who came before you and what they did to shape today, and to take the lessons of their legacy on how they can build for the future. And so when children and their families come to the Vauxhall Branch Library and they enjoy the wonderful programs that take place in that room, they'll see her face, they'll know her story, they'll know what she did for this community and for this library. And they will know her as the trailblazer that we all know her and got to know of her through her long and accomplished and distinguished life. So may her memory always be a blessing. And not only that, we'll have refreshments and snacks and desserts in, guess where? The Jeanette Shell all-purpose room. And may everyone have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.